Republican Congressman from South Carolina, Trey Gowdy, is here on the House Judiciary Committee, also chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks for your time tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so people want to know about a lot of things that James Comey may have information about, from the Hillary Clinton investigations to the impetus of the investigations looking into potential Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. What's the main focus for you?
Everything. Integrity in the Department of Justice, because everything you just mentioned, Shannon, goes to whether or not you can have confidence in the Department of Justice, and you can add into that FISA abuse, and you can add into that his memos, and you can add into that all the interviews he's done since he separated from service. But, you know, the FBI had a criminal investigation into a presidential candidate, and then less than a month after that ended, they launched a counterintelligence investigation into the campaign of the other major presidential candidate. So that's a lot of power that we have given an entity, and it is not too much to ask for the former head of that entity to come explain to Congress the decisions made and not made during the relevant time period. All
right, John Solomon, who has been digging on this story for years, had an interesting piece in The Hill yesterday. Some of the bullet points he says in the headline to his pieces: FBI email chain may provide most damning evidence of FISA abuses yet. And he talks about the fact that the House is looking for communications, emails that involve Mr. Comey, FBI investigators, DOJ attorneys. And he says that this could be really relevant because pre-Carter Page FISA warrant, before they got it, he says, Solomon reports, that the intel community already had concerns about the reliability of the Steele dossier, and he claims the FBI was aware that Steele was talking with the media before that warrant was ever secured. Do you have more details on that timeline? Do you think you'll get more tomorrow?
I hope we get more tomorrow. I'm also on the House Intelligence Committee, so I knew most of what, if not all of what you just said. But the point you raised is the salient one, which are the FISA abuses, and whether or not the world's premier law enforcement agency should be relying, even in a marijuana case, should you be relying on information that you have not vetted, corroborated, or contradicted. This is an investigation, a counterintelligence investigation into the campaign of a presidential candidate. So what is the threshold for the reliability and credibility of the information? I have long known that the FBI did not corroborate that information before they used it the first time. Let's find out whether or not they made any effort to corroborate it before they used it the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time. And if not, why not? And that didn't even get to the issue of the failure to include the exculpatory information that the Bureau had that I think a FISA court was entitled to.
All right. Mr. Comey's attorney, David Kelly, talking about this process and questioning whether you will be able to get more from his client. Here's what he had to say.
What's really interesting, you have Congressman Gowdy, who spent several years trying to get an investigation, spent tens of millions of dollars on Benghazi, and came up with nothing. And in a fraction of that time, Bob Mueller has come up with upwards of 30 indictments. So I think that's an interesting dynamic to these hearings.
Your response, sir?
Comey needs a new lawyer. He needs one that's smart enough to know members of Congress don't issue indictments. We don't indict anybody. And not to correct Mr. Kelly, well, actually to correct Mr. Kelly, we didn't spend 2 years investigating emails. We spent 2 years investigating the murder of 4 Americans in Benghazi, but it was because we were doing our job that led to the discovery of the email. So, look, I'll see Mr. Kelly tomorrow. If he's got any issues with how Congress conducted that investigation, he can tell me about it tomorrow.
All right, Mr. Comey tweeting this after he went to court to challenge the subpoena that would bring him before you all. He says, grateful for a fair hearing from judge, hard to protect my rights without being in contempt, which I don't believe in. So we'll sit in the dark. But Republicans agree I'm free to talk when done, and transcript released in 24 hours. This is the closest I can get to public testimony. He said all along he doesn't want to do this behind closed doors. How about the deal that you all reached? Will it be effective?
I hope so, but Shannon, think for a second. Think back to what his lawyer just said about Bob Mueller and all the praise that he just lavished on Mueller. Not a single one of Mueller's interviews was done in public. Not a single one of the grand jury meetings was done in public. There's never been an FBI interview ever in the history of mankind that was done in public. So why Jim Comey, who the last time I was in a public hearing with him, over 100 times he said, I cannot answer in this setting. Why Mr. Transparency wants to go back to a setting where he knows he cannot answer the questions is befuddling to me, and I don't think my fellow citizens buy that.
Well, maybe that's one of the questions you will ask him tomorrow as you and the Democrats, rotate with your hour on, hour off. We know it could be a long day and into the night on Friday, so we will be standing by. Mr. Chairman, thanks for the preview.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.